my favorite things in life is when someone can take something complicated and make it incredibly simple. You see, we live in a world that loves complexity. We create elaborate plans, endless decision trees, and complicated frameworks for almost everything. But every once in a while, someone comes along and distills a big idea into something is so simple we can't forget it. A while back, I came across a visual that did exactly this for my brain. It was a flowchart. Not a complicated one, just a few lines and a few arrows. At the left was a simple question: will you try? From there, the chart splits into two paths. The first path was try. If you try, there are only two possible outcomes. You succeed or you learn. That's it. The second path was even shorter. It said, don't try. And the path only had one outcome. You'll wonder, what if, forever. I love this visual because it takes something that feels complicated and makes it painfully simple. Every time we're faced with an opportunity, a challenge, a dream, or an adventure, we really only have two choices. Try or don't try. If we try, we either succeed or we learn. If we don't try, we spend years wondering what might have happened. Now, I have to admit something. I am one of those people who asks the what if question an awful lot. In fact, I've learned something about myself over the years. The moment my brain seriously starts asking what if, there's a very good chance I'm going to eventually try that thing. Sometimes I almost avoid asking the question because I know what comes next. What if I started that business? Or what if I started to learn that skill? What if I signed up for that race? What if I applied for that opportunity? You see, once the question takes root, my brain starts moving towards action. And honestly, that's not always comfortable. Because trying is scary. Trying means you might fail. Trying means you might look a little foolish. Trying means you might not be as good as you hoped. Trying means other people might judge you. But here's what I've learned. The people who are actually doing the thing rarely judge those who are trying. Engineers don't mock people for attempting difficult engineering problems. Athletes don't laugh at people who push themselves to compete at a higher level. Writers don't criticize someone for writing their first draft. The people inside the arena understand what it takes to step into it. It's usually the people watching from the sidelines who are most critical, and their opinions matter the least. One of the saddest patterns I've noticed is that the unhappiest people I know aren't the people who failed. They're often the people who've never tried. They're the people who have talked themselves out of opportunities. The people who have convinced themselves it wouldn't work. The people who let fear make the decision for them. Meanwhile, some of the happiest people I know have failed more times than most of us could count. But they don't see those experiences as failure, they see them as lessons. They've learned to enjoy the process of learning almost as much as the process of succeeding. And that's important because success rarely happens on the first attempt. Think about things you're good at today. Were you great at them 10 years ago? 5 years ago? Probably not. Most of us were terrible when we started. The skills we value most today were built through repetition, mistakes, setbacks, and learning. Success wasn't a single moment. It was a collection of lessons. And sometimes those lessons become valuable in ways we never expected. I've had experiences where something didn't work out at all. At the time, it felt like a dead end. But years later, the skills, knowledge, and confidence I gained from that experience became the exact stepping stone I needed for something completely different. The original goal may not have worked, but the learning still paid dividends. That's why I love the simple flowchart I mentioned at the beginning, because it reminds me that the real risk isn't trying and failing. The real risk is never trying and spending the rest of your life wondering what might have happened. What if I had applied? What if I had started? What if I had spoken up? What if I had taken the chance? Those questions, they can linger for years, maybe even decades. So if there's something you've been thinking about, something that's been sitting quietly in the back of your mind, I want to encourage you to revisit it. Maybe it's a project, a hobby, a career change, a conversation, a dream you've postponed for far too long. Ask yourself one simple question. Which outcome can you live with more comfortably? Learning and trying, or wondering forever what might have happened? Because at the end of the day, you really only have two choices. Try or don't try. If you try, you'll either succeed or you'll learn. And if you don't, well, you may spend the rest of your life asking, what if?